that covenant of blood represented the son having a permanent place in the house of God. The fear and the shame is gone, and he so loved you that he gave his one and only son so that you would have the seal and the promise of living with him forever. What is the outcome of coming home? Luke 15, we'll go back to the father. It says, the father said to his slaves, quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf, kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. So what does this mean? The outcome of this son coming home got 4 things. And they're more than just things. They represent a father's love and what it means to walk in sonship and in daughtership. The first thing that he gave him was the best robe. He said, bring the best robe. This means that he didn't just get the robe out of anywhere in his house. It means that that robe came from the father's closet. That was the father's robe. And according to the law, the son deserved death because of how he dishonored his father. But the father, instead of death, gave him the best robe. And what that signifies is the righteousness of God that covers our fear and shame. Because I don't know what the son looked like after he was hanging out in the pig pens, but he probably didn't look that great, and there was probably a lot of fear and a lot of shame coming back to the father. I don't know if he even had clothes, but the father said, bring out the best robe. And he put the best robe on the son's shoulders, which signified covering of the fear and of the shame. And he said, you are now covered in my righteousness. It is no longer what you did, but now what I did. And you get to walk from that righteousness. It also established the identity of the owner, because people knew. It would be like putting on the king's crown or the king's robe. You walk around with that, people are going to know who your father is. So this son, now beaten and battered, coming home in fear and shame, is clothed with righteousness. His fear and shame has been covered, and now he walks in the authority of his father. And that's what happens when you come home to Jesus. There's no shame. There's no condemnation. There's no I told you so. It is the best robe that you can wear. Number 2, the ring. He got a ring that he put on his finger, and most likely this ring had a family crest on it. So it represented coming back into the flock, coming back into the family. It also represented the power and the authority of the father placed on the son's hand. So now he's walking in righteousness. His fear and his shame are covered, and he has the ring of family that shows that who he belongs to is this father. And he has the authority of the Father. I don't know if you know this, but in Matthew it talks about that Jesus has given us all authority on heaven and earth. He's given us all authority. We don't have to shrink back like we are some orphan. We're a son and a daughter with the power and the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ, our Father in heaven. Now we actually get to live like that. And unfortunately, I think this is what has so stood out to me in studying this, is that there are a lot of us who come into this building and we're walking around with our shoulders down, with our heads hunched, because we don't believe that God came for us as a good father. He sent his son Jesus so that we could live in the authority of Jesus Christ. And we need to walk out of this room, not as orphans, but as sons and daughters, knowing the authority that's given to us. Because you have authority to trample on serpents. You have authority to take ownership of your household. You don't have to walk in fear anymore. You don't have to walk in shame. And that's because of Jesus. Nothing you could ever do could earn that. Just coming into his presence. The third thing that the Father gave him was his sandals. I think this is beautiful because Jesus gave us a lot of examples of going low. He said, I came to serve, not to be served. And if you remember in the New Testament, Jesus washes his disciples' feet. And back then, that would have been a lot nastier than probably today, because today we all have shoes and socks and, our feet hopefully stay for the most part clean. Then they wore sandals and would walk miles in the dirt. So their feet were probably disgusting. They probably stunk. They probably had calluses on them, and it just wasn't a pretty sight. But Jesus, in his goodness, chose to get low. He got to the lowest part, the dirtiest part of ourselves, and he washed our feet. So this picture of the son and the sandals is Jesus saying that I will wholly heal you. I will get down on the dirtiest parts of who you are, and I will heal them, and I will make you holy. And so when you come back into the fold, when you come back into the Father's arms and in his embrace, there's no judgment. There's no, well, why did you do that? Or why did you do this? Why didn't you come sooner? He gets down and he embraces the Son and he puts on the new shoes and he says, I will wholly heal you. The fourth thing, and I think it's the most beautiful thing, is the fattened calf. You see, the Father sealed it with a covenant of blood. Just like Jesus came and died on the cross and he shed his blood for you, that covenant of blood represented the Son having a permanent place in the house of God. So when you come to Jesus, his blood has covered all of your sin. He has completely healed you. He's put on the robe of righteousness. The fear and the shame is gone. And he so loved you that he gave his one and only Son so that you would have the seal and the promise of living with him forever. That is your Father in heaven.